the trendy question now: what do you bring to the table? So this is very popular right now in many podcasts, and I bet many relationships too. So it's kind of like it's an interview like question that mostly demands of ladies what qualities they bring to their relationships that will help them be picked as a wife or a girlfriend. They're already a girlfriend, maybe be upgraded to a wife. And in my assessment, it's mostly men asking women, what are the qualities that you bring that will make our relationship better as a girlfriend, as a wife? So some consider this question appropriate. I'll argue mostly men consider this appropriate, while others consider it off-putting, mostly women. It's not surprising that we have this divide. So we are here to discuss this question. We are here to discuss the evolution of this question. Why is it trending nowadays? We are also here to discuss whether it is appropriate or not. We are also here to discuss how this question is perceived, both by men and women. We are here to discuss what are the expectations of this question for those who are asking and for the person who is supposed to answer. And we are also here to discuss what are the expected answers of this question. Question of the day is, what do you bring to the table? Yeah, as maybe we'll start from the beginning. Where do you think this question has come from? And it seems to be popular. I imagine you two would think it's more common nowadays. People who are in relationships seem to be asking the question, at least on social media. I don't know if they have the guts to ask it in person, but a lot of guys are asking that question. What is your assessment of the evolution of this question?
I definitely think that people have been asking these questions in different forms since from the beginning of time. Most often, the questions were asked of men. If a man approached a woman or a girl, you either hear, "Can you take care of me?" It's the
Right.
same question. Um, you hear a parent would ask you, "Can you take care of my daughter?" It's the same question. When a parent or a girl asks you, "What do you do for a living?" It's the same kind of question, right? It's just evolved over time. It's been asked in different ways, mostly of men. Men rarely, except until now, in the past, what I know is when a man likes a woman, he usually doesn't think about what this woman brings to the table. It's mostly women wanting to know if they could be taken care of, wanting to know where this man is in terms of life, wanting to figure out what their place is in this man's life. Now the question is just being flipped, where men now are beginning to ask the women, like, "Hey, what do you have that would be of value to me? What can you bring to my life to make my life better as well, right? What can you bring to the table to make my future better?" So, as opposed to women asking men, which seem to be really okay. It seemed to be an okay question when a woman asks you, "Can you take care of me?" Or "Where do you work?" or "What do you do?" Seems perfectly appropriate. Now men are asking the same questions of women, and it sounds like it's offensive. It sounds like it's not a question that a man should be asking. I don't know if it's how you ask it or if it's when you ask the question, but I think it's but fair. If a woman can ask a man what the man can do for her, I think the man too has a right to ask this woman what the woman can do for him as well, right?
Right.
I know as we go through the conversation, we'd kind of look at the meaning and implications of all that, but I think it's a common question that has been asked over time. Parents ask it, girls ask it of the boys who approach them. Now men are asking it,
Men are.
asking the question now. And I think that's why it's gaining the kind of traction that it is, because like they say, when a dog bites a man, it's no news. But when a man bites a dog,
Right.
then it is news, right? So women have been asking and it's been fine. Now men are asking it, and now
Right.
There's this blowout. It's all over the place. Why should you be asking why this, why that? So yeah, I think it's just over time, men are beginning to ask the question, and that's how it's evolved.
So you think men have gotten the courage to be able to ask this question of their women? So I'd like us to explore that deeper. Why is it more common now for men to be able to ask those questions of women? Um, like you have astutely articulated, women are more overt when they ask these questions. They're like, where can you take me? What can you do for me? Or in a covert way, they can look at the car you drive, the house you live in, the clothes you wear, and stuff like that. So they can make inference of whether this man, what this man brings to the table. I will maybe argue that men, they have been some sort of asking this question, but not overtly, not directly. They look at, obviously you look at a woman, you think she's beautiful, you think she has a good character and stuff like that, and then you question in your mind, this woman is a good fit for you. But I think times have changed,
Hmm.
um, and economic hardship now makes this question more
Relevant.
nowadays. The the decadence we have in our society, you know, makes this question more relevant. The and when I talk when I what I mean by that is we don't have as much quality women and men like we used to do in the past, where most men expected to marry virgins, most
Hmm.
men a woman that would be submissive to them. Most men expected a woman that would be respectful of their decisions and stuff like that. So those have changed. So men have like, I need to make sure I am not getting a liability, but an asset in a relationship.
Hmm.
That's one. Um, Another thing too is the rise of feminism. It's hard to. I think most social ills nowadays has roots in feminism. So by that I mean most women were taught that they are equal to men. Most women have been trained to be like men. Most men feel like they don't get the same quality of women that their fathers did. So it makes the question more relevant nowadays. So um, um, men feel like they need to ascertain that they have not on liabilities, not to repeat myself. So
So
this
what?
thing, economic hardship, the moral decay of the society, um, the um, the quality of women and men nowadays who are seeking to get into relationship, most of these find their roots in the rise of feminism and all the other social issues that ensue from that.
So I guess my question again, just to kind of go back to the question, what does it mean? What do you bring to the table? How
Yeah.
do you interpret the question? What does it mean to ask that question?
In a general sense, it means asking people what are the things that they can contribute to your life to make your life better, to make your
Hmm.
life living the singleness, living the single lifestyle, to commit to someone and build a life together. So, in essence, that is what the question is all about. And a lot of men, partly from their fathers, partly from their uncles, their brothers and sisters, they have probably heard and they see themselves that these men are always complaining about their wives in relationship, and women too. Relationship. Gosh, have you sat around married people? If you're a single person, you don't want to marry because everyone is complaining about their marriage and stuff like that. It seems to be trendy. So a lot of single people are looking at this and they're like, I need to get something better. I need to get in a relationship that serves me.
Hmm.
Not just me emptying myself for the women, but also has someone who will be able to be a partner and support me and be there for me and take care of me. So I think the times that we live in makes the question more fitting, makes it more appropriate. I know it's perceived in a threatening way And ladies nowadays are not used to ask this question because many of them have been pampered. I mean, if you're beautiful, you were pampered by your dad, and men pamper you, and you really don't think about this question. I think a lot of females feel like they just come, just bring your boobs and your bum. That's it. That's everything that you bring to a relationship. But I think men are beginning to figure out there's more to that. Um,
Yeah, definitely think that sometimes when you go on social media and you girls saying, "Oh, I bring me, I'm beautiful, I'm this, and I have this and I have that," I'm like, those are not values. Those are things that a man who is wealthy enough, has a little bit of money, can buy. You could buy a beautiful girl for 1 hour, and do that, right? So when you say, "Oh, this is what I bring," it's like really adds no value to it adds no value to me, because again, what you bring now needs to add value to whatever value that I have. You need
right.
to be able to contribute something. I think that's the point of the question. What are you going to contribute to me? What are you going to bring? What do you have to offer? I think it sounds like it was an interview, a job interview you were at, but I think at the end of the day, that is what it's all about. Relation,
Job inter- Job interviews, relationships are like job interviews. I think
they are,
that's a perfect analogy because
and,
women
and
interview again overtly and covertly. Women
yeah,
ask you, what do you do for a living? What kind of car you drive? Where do you live? Do you still live with your
hmm
parents?
hmm
Can you support yourself financially? Are you in shape? I mean,
hmm
sometimes they actually directly, some of them they just make observations and they
hmm
come up with the conclusion that this guy is worth my time.
hmm
Um, well, now again, not to say men have not been asking this question in the past, but like what I've listed, uh, the question has more relevance now. Okay, you have ladies who are growing up thinking that they don't need any man. You have ladies who are growing up thinking that they can possess any behavior and they should still be fit for relationships. And the guys now are saying, no, 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 no. We have to know what you're going to add to my life, what value you bring to my life. So I think, and I'm sure we are biased as men, but I think this question is very appropriate. I think some ladies will agree with us, some ladies will say no, it's not appropriate.
I read a little blog, a little vlog, yeah, a couple of days ago, and the title was again the same title we have. What do you bring to the table? And the subtitle was, why this question limits your chances in the dating world. So, according to this lady, um, he says, as a man, this question says you're broke, unstable, looking for a provider. You approaching that woman because something about them attracted them to you. So
Right.
again, I think I think the point I want to bring up, I want to have a conversation is, does a man asking the question imply that they are broke or unstable or looking for someone to provide? Or
Um,
is that what you get from asking that? That's what some women think, that only a man who's broke and needing somebody to provide for them would
yeah,
ask a question
you
like that.
see that comment quite a bit. That it's only broke men who ask that question, or it's only losers who ask that kind of question. But I don't think so. I think reasonable men who will live in reality, are looking for someone to add value to their life, and I think the question is perfectly appropriate. You can be able to make sound judgment when you have all the facts available to you. Um, So I think it's an appropriate question to ask, particularly if you're about to get into the relationship. Again, this is years and years of watching people in relationship, watching male and female dynamics of our times, and thinking like, I need better. I need to do better than the people I see around me who are married. What are the things that I need to figure out upfront before I get into a relationship? So I understand some ladies perceive this as a threat. They perceive this as being broke. Um, That's fair, but at the same time, men, even the men who are successful, who rich, who who can support themselves, uh, because of the economic circumstances, because of the decay in society, the lack of morality and stuff like that, they find this question appropriate to ask. And you can ask from young men who are not even married and are just looking to get into relationships. Like, because of the social media relevance of this question, they are beginning to ask it in ways that our fathers, our elder brothers did not.
Mhm. Yeah. Um, okay. So again, just to add again, every relationship is different, and then
Right.
values are subjective, I think, and people are looking at different things in life depending on where they are. So when a man asks a woman, "What do you bring to the table?"
Right.
Is there, again, before we get into what the respond should be or is there like a universal response? Is there a one? Is it a one size fit all answer
No,
to that question?
I don't think it is a one size fit all. No, I think men are different, groups of men are different, so the question obviously vary from man to man. Everybody knows what they're looking for, or has an idea of what they're looking for. I don't think people completely know what they're looking for before they get into a relationship, but people sort of have an idea, and we have a lot of self-help books, self-help podcasts and stuff like that that teach young single men what to look for. I can see how the question can be misinterpreted um, to mean other things, but the men are saying, no, this is what we want. For example, I think, well, most women, when they hear this question, most women are thinking the line of, oh, I can bring some money, I have a good job, I have a good career and stuff like that. Um, but some of the men are saying, no, 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 that's not really what I want. I want something else that we're going to discuss. So I can see how there's a mismatch in how the question is asked and how the question is answered.
Hmm. And yeah, definitely true. I think for every man definitely have an idea of what they might want in a woman,
And
or
women,
in a
and women
sorry.
too. And women too. Women have an idea of what women
Of
have
course.
an, and it's for some reason I think the question is easier for women to ask because for their whole life they have been trained, socialized, and by nature, figure out what is it that they really want from women. Because by the time a woman is 22, 23, she has had a mirage of men coming to her, particularly if is beautiful. So just the process of natural selection has made her to be able to ask this question. Naturally, it forces women to ask the relationship dynamics between men and women naturally forces women to be able to figure out this question earlier in life, ask this question more intensely, be more interested in asking this question, right? Because if you're a woman by the time, if you're very pretty, by the time you're 25, you have maybe like 100 men that have approached you. You naturally have to find a hierarchy of how to rank these people. It may be off here and there, but by and large, you already have an idea. Or maybe you've got in a relationship, like, no, this guy is not worth my time. And then maybe you got into one, this guy was good, and I let him go. So that dynamic kind of helps you or forces you to be able to ask that question of men. Men usually have the standard to even be asked that kind of question later in life because you have to build yourself to even consider worthwhile for any woman. So for men, it takes a long time to be able to be seen by women to be able to even have women consider you. So I that women uh, this question is more imminent for them than it is men, and obviously women uh, for the most part, have been asking this question, and we usually ask this question before men their age.
Hmm. We have a comment by Alemge Quinta. and it reads, we get to hear this question nowadays. I was hoping to be more enlightened. I'm not sure if that was a comment or question, or if she would want to elaborate a little bit more in terms of what the enlightenment she was
Well,
hoping to
hopefully
get.
we're throwing more light on the question so that
Mhm,
some will be able to have an idea what it is that men mean when they ask this question. I mean, we're not
mhm,
saying in everything that men want. There are obviously men who want different things, but we are here to discuss, share our ideas. Hopefully, we help.
mhm. So yeah, we are definitely going to talk about what we think a woman should bring, or what we think men should be putting on that table. But again, before we get there, we just thought maybe we kind of build the conversation before we get to that point. And I think one other question I'd like to ask Ghana, or bring up one other conversation I want to bring up is, at what point do you ask the question?
Right.
At what point? Is that
Uh,
a question you ask on the first date? Is that a question you ask in the course of starting the relationship? At what point is it appropriate to ask what someone brings to the table? Men or women, doesn't matter. At what point is it appropriate to ask?
I'd like to say you should ask that question at the beginning of the relationship, but I think reality means that it is very tricky to ask that question because imagine you're just getting to know someone and you guys are all in the honeymoon phase. You are all captives of your emotions. You're all in love because you can't get rid of this person. You can't get rid of this person out of your mind. You're obsessed. It's the honeymoon phase is phase with a lot of obsession. You want to be with this person all the time. So I think asking this question appropriately at the beginning of the relationship, it's challenging, particularly if you guys are with each other all the time, particularly if you're in a sexual entanglement already. Your mind is already polluted by a lot of things. So I don't think you are asking with a clear mind. If you want to be perfect and ideal, I think you should ask this question while you're courting, like just getting to know each other so you get it out of the way. But I don't think human dynamics allow us for that. We usually want to couple off pretty quickly, particularly if we find the people attractive. Um, but I think ideally, before you even get into the relationship, before you even get into the first date, these questions are supposed to be asked. Ideally, but I'll submit that that doesn't happen quite often. So,
No.
when people, particularly men, are trying to take their relationship to the next level, that they have to ask this question, or they are trying to eliminate dead weight,
Mhm.
that themselves this question. I think that's really when most of this question happens.
I definitely would agree that there has to be a certain level of relationship first. And if you feel like, okay, I want to be a little bit more serious, or I need to move this a little bit forward, and then you start asking the serious questions. You only ask the serious questions
When you're reading the
when
flow.
you think you want to be serious, right? Um,
I
However, some
that part of asking the question too is gathering information from the person you are with. Oh, how are this person really when we are in relationships? Are
Mhm,
they domestic? Can they take care of me? Blah blah blah. And then oh, you get no, maybe they're not as clean as I thought they were. Sorry, maybe they don't do their laundry. Maybe they can't cook a good meal. Maybe they are not good with their finances. Maybe they don't take care of their health. So then you have very specific questions to ask now. So that it's not more. It's not just a very generic and general question. It's very
mhm.
now. I see that you can cook. I'm a guy that likes good food. What do you bring to the table? I see that you're not good with money. I'm a guy who likes to save money, or I'm a guy who likes to spend money. What do you bring to the table? So the question itself is very general, but when you guys get in the relationship, I think you can narrow it down to specific questions.
Some might argue that asking the questions in the beginning of a or cutting, whatever it is, it's kind of preemptive and premature. It says either of you, both of you, either one of you is lazy or both of you are lazy. Because again, there's the taking time to get to know people. When you ask the question, it means you want someone to tell you everything about that.
Yeah.
Right? There's no discovery there. You're not discovering anything for yourself. It's not interesting. It's not fun because again, she tells you everything about herself. You're like, I don't like this. I don't like this. I don't like this. I like that. It's not good enough, and then you move on. Right? Some people believe that asking the questions kind of limits the people's ability to kind of build
Mm-hmm.
on relationships, because once the response is not what you're looking for, there might be other things that you might see in a person when you get to know them that are qualities or skills that you maybe didn't even think about when you were thinking about a partner or a wife or a girlfriend. But now you've seen this and it makes sense, and then you might begin to consider. But if you did not take the chance or the opportunity to get to know the person that you were wanting to get involved with by going out for dates, activities, hanging out, watching movies, things that you typically people who are interested in each other kind of do together, right? If you don't do that, then it takes away a lot
Yeah.
from I don't know if it's the back and forth that needs to happen when
Mm-hmm.
people are interested in each other. What do you think about that argument?
I agree because if you have all these set questions to ask before, it kind of makes the relationship sterile. No, it kind of makes it as a business transaction. So it makes it very cut and dry. So it takes away the natural dynamic between man and woman. It takes away that adventure like spirit that relationship has, that you discover things. Oh, I like this. Oh, I don't really like that. Oh, maybe I can manage with that. It takes away that thing and it makes the relationship like um, two business people who are coming together and they already have their clear terms of doing business. So
Mhm.
I can see how it makes a relationship business-like. It makes it transactional. It makes it sterile and stuff like that. I can see. I can definitely see that. It can definitely make it awkward, both for the man and woman. Um,
Mhm.
but my argument, uh, better to have a few awkward moments, a few um, sterile aseptic relationships at the beginning, then you guys build on a good foundation.
Mhm.
Um, I, I don't. The is of a new relationship really permits us to get a clear-cut answer that can be helpful, just because of the influences that we have in new relationships. So I think it's quite difficult to ask this question. It might be more appropriate in cultures where people are put together by family members. By
Mhm.
this family, like, oh, we want my son to marry your daughter, or want my daughter to marry. So it might be more appropriate in such cultures because you have you can the family kind of vets these questions up front at the
Mhm.
on behalf of their son or daughter, so they can ask these questions and have answers. Not to say that will answer all the questions, but I think it will be more effective in such cultures. I don't know how many of such cultures exist nowadays. I know it's very common in India. Many parts of Africa they still do that, but it's dying down a little bit with the um, increased accessibility to technology and more effective mode of transportation and stuff like that. I don't think this method of meeting potential partners is more common. So I just that the question is it's a worldwide phenomenon.
I think just to add to that, I think more people, again, when you read, more people are of the opinion that a question like that converts a casual, what's supposed to be a casual, intimate, friendly relationship, it changes it to be a little transactional. I read a vlog by Elo Osika, and the title, of course, same title. What do you bring to the table? Subtitle: How valid is the question really? I think one of the comments she made was that the question is so crass the conversation quickly becomes transactional. Again, like we said, most people see it as once you put on the question, it's like we're in a business relationship now.
Mhm.
It gives off the vibes of someone with a shopping cart walking down the aisle of a mall,
Right,
checking what is on display in the shelves and moving in search of what is on his list.
right.
Uh, that's what it feels like. To be
Yeah,
fair, it is not so wrong to see a relationship as as an exchange of favors, but to strip it so coarsely to the bone, the way the question does, is just tacky and
right.
distasteful.
Yeah, yeah.
That is
Oh,
one of the comments that you see.
I can totally see that. Yeah, it makes it sterile, makes it transact stuff like that. It makes it awkward. It really makes it awkward too. Um, but again, it's just where we are in society, how we have evolved in relationships. I also submit that most people really can't figure out what people bring to the table. That's why the question has become more relevant at times. I mean, look at the amount of plastic surgery that a lot of people are doing nowadays. Look at the facade that people put on social media. They are these the hardworking. They look at the pictures that people put on social media. Boy, back in the days when I was on dating apps, you will see someone on their dating app and you see them in real life, and they are completely different people. Like you won't even take a second look. Um, so I'll say, yeah, the evolution of relationships, the lack of clarity of what you're getting into has made the question more whatever. And it just speaks to our times too. We feel like we are more connected with social media and stuff, but in a way we are, but in a way too we don't have depth in connection. We don't have the ability to be able to discover people in other ways, so part of it is just where we are in the times, and people feel like you have to be upfront, but I totally see how this is it changes.
I, I am I'm definitely a little bit torn. I agree that people are usually mostly very superficial nowadays, especially with respect to they give out an impression of something that isn't really there.
Yeah,
You go to someone's social media page, they are well dressed, they're standing in front of a really beautiful house, they give the impression that they're doing well. Or you see this girl on the picture, her face looks like, she,
right.
but
Yeah,
again,
I mean,
it's superficial, it's artificial in the sense that it's just buttocks and plastic surgery, right? So I definitely see why people would want to go a little bit deeper
yeah, when
to
I
say, okay, yeah, I see the physical, but what is it about this
right,
physical you that would add value to my life outside the fact that you look beautiful or you're gorgeous? Outside that, what else can you offer, right? I definitely agree that there's a need to ask.
mhm,
And then on the other hand, I agree with the other argument that it takes away the magic of discovery.
right.
It clearly takes away that. So now you're standing in the middle thinking, should I take the time? Because it takes time and money to get to know someone.
Oh, it
So the
does.
question is, should I take the time and spend the money to get to know this person myself, discover her myself,
Yeah,
or should I pose this question and deal with this right away and walk away if I'm not satisfied,
right.
right? For some people, it might be a difficult decision to make. Either ask the question, get the answers directly, move on,
Mhm.
or take the time and, of course, spend a little bit of money to get to know this person. It's
I was going to say, even with that too, like the old adage, since birds have learned how to fly without perching, hunters will learn how to shoot without missing.
without, yeah. Mhm.
People also lie too. So if you have your laundry list of questions that you ask people at the beginning of a relationship, what do you bring to the table, and you're expecting a particular answer, people can definitely make up what you want to hear, and they
Mhm.
all the answers that you want to hear, and make you come into a particular relationship, and then they begin to show your true colors. So it's a fair. I think it's a good argument that we're advancing here, that yeah, it makes the relationship transactional and business like. It also takes away that discovery, that adventure like spirit of relationships, and make it very sterile. So it's a question that has its advantages and also has its disadvantages too, because people can put a facade, they can make up stories, get you into the relationship and show their true colors. That is it's not unheard of, you know.
Mm.
It's quite common too. So the question is a good one. It speaks of our times. I think it's appropriate. I think it can be asked in a better way. It can be part of it can be observation too, not just
Hmm.
part of it can be discovering things for yourself. But nonetheless, I think it's an appropriate question. I understand why it's off-putting to a lot of people, but it just speaks where we are in the male-female dynamics.
You did talk about, I don't want I think it's called is the arranged marriages where
Right.
families come together, and though aren't these families asking the same questions amongst themselves even without the children knowing, like what would your child bring to this? Isn't that already transactional when two
It is,
families come together and negotiate a marriage?
yeah, I agree. It is transactional, and but then my argument for that is that the families are coming with clarity. They are not influenced by hormones. They are not influenced
Mhm.
by love, by emotions, by being in love, and all the things that come with it. They have a more a bigger a bigger picture, and they have a clearer view. They can be able to decipher that question without being biased. I mean, sure, they'll be biased in their own way, but not
Mhm.
as the people who are in the relationship. So, in such cultures, I think the family can ask better. I mean, they always ask the question, right? And they do it too by observation. They observe the potential partners and stuff like that and say, finish. So, in subculture, I think people place a lot of value in what their family thinks of their relationship. And
Mhm.
relationship seen as an individual, that's seen as an integral part of the larger
That's
family.
from the
Yeah, it's a more fitting question. Maybe maybe not more fitting, but it's easier to practice that question in that dynamic. But again, I argue that we don't have a lot of those kind of societies nowadays. Things have,
no.
you know,
And
um,
people, for some reason, people look down on relationships that were arranged, family arranged. They're like, oh, for your family, you don't even know this person,
yeah,
whatever. But they forget to know that these questions that they are asking people they are meeting on the streets now are form the base of what that relationship, because they've observed the family first of all, and then they've observed the child, they've observed their sisters, they've drawn conclusions based on those observations. They've asked those questions to the parents, right, each parent, and it's a wealth of knowledge, the observation that they make outside the two of you, right, and they could tell you really really clearly, and most of the time accurately, and say this is a woman, this is a girl,
right.
you should consider marrying, or they could say this is a man you should consider marrying, and they could calm down and give you a list of reasons why they've concluded that this is a good man or this is a good woman to be married to, right? But again, for cultures who don't practice that, they look at it and they're like, no, people can pick and choose a wife or husband for you,
Yeah,
and but again, they
it's it's part of the modernization. I think family, if you're asking you why if the family is doing the vetting for you, they can really put things into context, and they can really put things, they can understand the different dynamics. And a lot of people that argue against family choosing that don't really look at the stats. The stats show that in such cultures where the family is involved, relationship lasts longer.
longer, right?
The stats are really clear because you're not just marrying the person, but you're marrying their family as well. And also, as I said, the family can put that in context. They say, oh, my son is not good at this, he's not good at this, he's good at this, he's good at that. My son's temperament from me as a mother or a father or a grandparent, these are the characteristics that we have in our family. We can find people that can work with these characteristics that we bring to the table. Maybe we are short tempered. Maybe we are heavy spenders. Maybe we like good things. Maybe we are very frugal in the way we spend our money. Maybe we are very academic focused and stuff like that. So the family can really put that in context, and as a family, like, these are the genes that we bring to the table. These are our family values. These are our family characteristics. What can be fitting, but if you're in love and you're again hit by all the emotions that come with being in love, all the butterflies, you don't have the skill, nor the temperament, nor the the lack of distraction to be able to ask this question.
Okay. Do we want to talk about
Yeah. So yeah,
what?
have we discussed why the question is off-putting to a lot of women? I
Oh
think we
no,
have.
we haven't. We
Yeah.
haven't. We can talk
So
about that.
why do you think these questions? And you can see if you watch a lot of videos online, or if you can go to social medias where people ask this question, you can see it has a lot of females are rebellious. And I'll argue too, if women are asking these men these questions on social media, there's an act of rebellion that will come out from people. Anyways, it's more common now from men asking women. But you can tell there's a lot of repulsion, there's some rebellion, there's some, it's off-putting, it doesn't fit quite well with a lot of women.
Mhm.
Why do you think that is?
I don't. Some
And
women. Some.
not generally for women who are not fitting to be wives. Even the women who have good behavior, who have good characteristics, it can be off-putting.
I think first of all, it comes across as you do not see the value.
Right.
First of all, most of the time men approach women, and women think because you're approaching them, there's definitely something you've seen about them that you like or that has value to you. And then when you go ahead and pose the question, and then they're looking at you doubting, really,
Yeah.
what did you see first of all that made you want to talk to me in the first place?
Yeah.
Right? Most of the time they are girls are limited to how they look, because most of the time a man approaches you just because of how you look. They don't know you from anywhere, they've not seen you anywhere. They see how you look and it's appealing to them, and then they approach you. Some women think that is all that needs to be said and done. You need
Right.
to look at me, and this is what I bring to the most of the time they're talking
Yeah.
about the physical.
Yeah.
This is what I bring to the table. It's me. It's I knew. So I saw something on YouTube where this girl said I have a 150,000 body. I'm like, then the guy is, what does that mean?
Right.
Then he's like, then she said four liposuction, breast and two, three breast enhancement. So then the guy is saying, but so okay, so is that value? These are all things that you bought from so effectively this is not even you. The
Yeah.
you that I'm looking at is not you, because everything that I see is paid for.
Yeah.
It's only artificial. So how do I see value in you without talking to you and having you tell me what you think is value to you? If the only thing you can tell me is the breast implants and the liposuctions, then it's nothing to me, because that is not what I'm looking for. So when you ask a woman that question, it's like, oh yeah, I'm beautiful, I'm this, I'm that, and that. That's
Right.
all they see. But men like the fact that you're beautiful, but they need you to have a lot more depth than just being beautiful.
Yeah.
And that's why men ask, and the women are offended, because they're like, "Oh, you definitely saw value. That's why you approached me." No, I saw I saw you how you looked physically.
Right.
Now I want to discover the values that you hold. I want to discover the skills that you have. I want to see what you can contribute to me. Most women don't like that.
Yeah. 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 Most women are like, yeah, I think most women are like, and again, I'll argue that most women have not really been asked that question. You know, they haven't sat down and thought to themselves, like, what are the things that I can contribute to a man's life to make his life better? Like you said again, they just look at themselves and like, oh, I have a I have breasts, I have bump, I look beautiful. That should be enough. I am the table. That's the answer you usually get.
I am the table. I hate that because it's so. That answer is so.
What do you mean?
It's
What?
so empty. It's so empty
Yeah.
that I can't even think of. I am the table. Well,
Yeah.
how?
So, I generally think most a lot of women have not pondered on that question long enough. Again, society and biology doesn't force them to do that. It forces them to ask that questions of men that they're looking to have a relationship with them, but it doesn't ask them that question because women have been pampered or their whole a lot of women have been pampered their lives. And they don't really know what men value. And it's also part of a larger extent part of our society where society doesn't really care what men want nowadays. Men have been classified as toxic, as irrelevant, as disposable. So their needs have usually been pushed last. It's not surprising to hear, oh, in the relationship, it's kids first, kids, wife, goats, dogs, cats, pets before you have men. If you just look at the court system where we live, it's heavily favored um, um, towards women. You know, all a woman has to do is just complain about you, and even the house you're paying for, you can be kicked out of. So, in an evolutionary point, women have not really been asked that question overtly. I don't think they've sat and pondered on that question for a long time, because men have mostly done the chasing. Women have mostly been courted their whole life. But
Mm.
now, women have been men have been relegated to the back, and most men are quitting the game. Most men are not even having relationships. So the few who are about to get into the relationship are guys who have worked on themselves physically, financially, stuff like that. So they have more at stake. The risks of marriage is high. So there's more to lose if you get in a marriage. If you're wealthy, a woman can just make an accusation and go with half your wealth. So the question has an existential meaning. It has future repercussions, and I think men are beginning to take the question serious.
Mhm. We women, I think for some they might find the question embarrassing, or
Yeah,
the question might embarrass them, because, like you said, their entire life they've never thought of what they can contribute to a man's life, and
right.
then you ask them this question and they don't even know where to start.
Yeah,
First of all, embarrassing for them. They have no idea what it is that any man might want. I mean, generally speaking, not specific about the man asking the question. Generally speaking, they have no idea what a man might be looking for in a woman. All this like, I'm beautiful, that's it. So
perhaps.
first of all, embarrassing to them. Secondly, when you start attempting to answer the question, then all that feminist woman up here, empowerment, this and that, that wall definitely breaks down.
It does.
It definitely breaks down, because you can't talk about what you bring to the table without bringing yourself down to what a woman is,
Right.
without bringing yourself to the place where you technically acknowledge that, oh, I am a woman, there's a certain role that I
That,
have to play, right? So it might be offensive to them because it breaks down all the walls of feminism. Yeah, woman up, down, there, I can do that, I can do that, because the question needs you to bring down yourself to the
that,
level of every woman,
that
where
is
there are certain things that a man wants in a relationship or in a wife, where you really can't talk about it without acknowledging that, yes,
no.
as a woman I have a certain role to play in the house.
But
Most women
that
don't
is
want that.
that is such a good point, because just to ask that question, it leads you to the fact that the natural or the logical progression of that question is that men and women are different, and men and
Mhm.
women bring different things and different qualities to the relationship. So yeah, um, think of how our nowadays, how we have been socialized with all the transgenderism, with all the feminism, with all the women empowerment and stuff. it's almost like men and women are supposed to be equal in all aspects.
Mm-hmm.
No, you're supposed to be the same. I mean, you can be equal in value, but naturally, you're not supposed to be the same. You're supposed to bring different things. So that's such a good point, because to ask that question is to first of all note that I'm not looking for another man to marry.
Of
If you,
course.
I'm not looking for another woman to marry, and part of it is also how the indoctrination, and really I consider indoctrination is everywhere. Just look at the TV shows, look at media, look at commercials. Where do you really see now advertising of strong men who are strong, men who are good fathers, men who are providers? You don't see that anymore in TV shows, on social media. All you see is a man who is clueless, has no idea what's going on in his home. You see a man whose wife has to boss him around all the time. He doesn't know what is happening. The wife has to remind him how dumb he is. If she's not there, he cannot do anything in his life. I mean, just can you pick any show that shows strong men nowadays on Netflix? That show men. I mean, we used to come with James Bond and Rambo and stuff. Those were
Yeah.
men who physically fit, who were strong. Now you see a man
It,
who,
it doesn't sell. I think society has
right?
gotten to a point where it doesn't really sell
It
for
doesn't.
it. Selling a man as strong and solid, and nobody wants to see that. Nobody wants to watch that. That's why even when there's you watch a show where there's a strong man, they are definitely balancing that with a very strong woman as well. It seems like without a strong woman in the show, it
Yeah,
can't work, right? Or they're balancing that with a strong gay man too, right? Or they try as much, or they are putting a strong black man and a white, they try.
yeah,
It's so complex to the
right.
point where I think film writers and movie directors, they see a script and they're like, no, we need to add a little strong woman here. We need to, bring a few gay people here and there and there, and then at the end of the day, that is what sells. And I think that is what
And
um um
also, I'm not a huge movie person, but we used to grow up watching Superman. Then
mhm,
suddenly make Superwoman.
of
Uh,
course.
there's talks of making James Bond into a woman.
Yeah.
Um, uh, we used to have like strong men. I remember growing up, Michael Power, the guy who used to advertise Guinness,
Hmm.
strong, physically fit, good looking, and stuff like that. You don't see those nowadays. You see men who are usually out of shape, men who are clueless, men who are dependent on their women for everything.
I
You know,
think there's a lot of this diversity and
the diversity,
inclusion
which is
stuff
right,
where it can't just be for men, or it can't just be for women, or it can't just be for white. They have to throw in a little bit of this and a little bit of that to diversify, it becomes complicated.
right. It becomes too much. So, that's why I really say it's an indoctrination, because it, it's not overt. It's just they just change it. It's
Yes,
right.
quiet,
They
quiet, slow, but very
no
consistent
one, no one
process.
see a typically white thing. Now they are
Mhm.
putting black people there. Who says they're not going to change? What's the typical strong black character? I don't know what the black character is. Something like Wakanda. Soon you start seeing they're going to start putting white people there too, just to have a quota. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Um,
That
uh, so
diversify.
diversify. So, and a lot of us, especially us black people, for now we're thinking and we're celebrating it when it's
It's good
happening.
for us.
Is good, but be careful. It's gonna happen to you too, because when you get enough popularity, those start changing your characters to meet other people. Soon you
We'll
start
have to start
seeing
changing yours to meet the
Indians,
needs of others too.
yeah. Do you start seeing Indians acting African movies? You start seeing white people in African movies. So it's good to celebrate now. It feels good. You think you're empowered, but whoa, watch out! It's gonna come for you too. But yeah, it just tells you where our society is, what is being promoted. Again, I can't stress this enough. It's literally indoctrination, right? They don't push strong men. They don't push men who stand up and support their families. Men who stand up to women when they are behaving poorly. So men have really regressed now into space where you have other men who are encouraging men. You have to ask these questions up front, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's why the manosphere, the men empowerment sphere is growing largely because the media is not even promoting this question. If you are a man and you dare to ask this question in the media, you are demonized. You are called misogynist. You are called broke, who can you can't even provide. But men are beginning to recede and, like, you know what, the mainstream media is not really fighting for our right. We're going to go to these channels that are telling us to ask these questions up front
Mm-hmm. Can do it.
and do it.
So now back to the question: what do you bring to the table?
Right.
What do you bring to the table? What does a woman bring to the table? What should a woman bring to the table? Or
Yeah.
maybe do we want to start with men? Or men is so obvious what a man brings.
A question for women to ask men, and I don't think women experience it now as acutely as men do, because naturally women have been asking the question. Because even the most feminist women who ask this question of men, the women who push the most equality, still ask the question of men. At the end of the day, when everything is said and done, they still go and choose the big, strong, financially stable guy.
Mm-hmm.
The who push feminism, at the end of the day, when they want to settle down, they are not settling for the men that they are
The
grooming
weak.
and they are pushing in society. They are not settling for those men who are fat, who don't have a job, who are playing video games all day. At the end of the day, the feminists, the staunch feminists, when all is said and done, they are still going to look for the strong man, the man who is financially stable, who can provide for them, the man who has good genes, who can transmit those genes to their potential children and stuff like that. Um, yeah, so I think women should ask this question of men too. Women do ask the question of men. What was the question again? I missed it. What should men bring?
I
Um,
don't know where if you want to start with what women should bring, or you want to start
yeah, women.
what men should be bringing on to the table.
I've really listed the things I think men should bring: strength, direction, conviction, discipline, provision, protection. All the things
Mm-hmm.
that are channel, right? I mean, we're mainly a man channel. All those things
Mm-hmm.
good traditional men used to bring. To be able to be the hunter, go out there, fend for your family, and bring it back home, and like to show your children direction, to show your son what it is to be a good man, what is it to be,
Mm-hmm.
and who is not dependent on his feelings or his mode of happiness, who is able to wake up every day and go to work, regardless of how he feels, regardless of what is happening to him that day. Wakes up, go to work to be able to provide for his family, show his daughters what to expect of a man, a man who's a man who means what he says and says what he means,
Mm-hmm.
because you also have to think of what this is teaching our boys and our girls. If you have daughters, what are you teaching them? What to expect of men? If you have sons, what are you teaching them? What to be to women? So I think you should get strong men, because when what was it saying? When the shit hits the fan, they are not going to be finding the gay men, the feminists, the feminized men and stuff. Society is still gonna be looking for the strong men. If we are in a war right now, they're not gonna be fighting the people who are pushing diversity. They're going to be
Mm-hmm.
fighting who can shoot the gun, the people who can be strong and go to fight the battle for us. So, yeah, those are the things that will list for men. Um, for women, it's again, it's like anything female is always complicated, because what is society teaching women nowadays? You have to be strong, you have to be a career woman and stuff like that. And there's some value in that. I mean, that's what women have fought for women have fought for a long time. But if you are a very strong career woman, if you are very strong on providing, if you are very strong on being like a man, you eventually become a man. I'll submit that most men do not want that. You know, I mean, what are the characteristics to succeed in the workplace? You have to be aggressive, you have to be assertive, you have to fight your way up the corporate ladder and stuff like that. That eventually makes you very masculine. I don't think most men want that. So I think in general terms, men want nurturing, they want happy women, they want women who are in shape and stuff like that. Just being pleasant, just women who are nice to be around, you know. I mean, if you're a lawyer who is working 15, 12 to 16 hours a day, how can you be nice to a man? If you're a doctor or a nurse who is doing double shifts all the time, how can you come home and really be nice to a man? Like, really, you're exhausted from your work, you've lost all patience, you have been insulted by your patients or your clients, or you are drained from all the work you have to do. It
Mhm,
takes natural femininity that men usually want, but which
mhm,
that in a relationship for. So in a way, being career focused kind of put you at odds with the feminine energy that men are looking for in
mhm.
a dynamic.
So if again you've mentioned a couple of things, I wanted to kind of break it down into the tangible
Right.
and the intangible
Yeah.
values with
Yeah.
respect to what people bring to the table. For women, most of the time, what they bring to the table is intangible. You can't
Yeah.
easily quantify or qualify.
Right.
So, for example, patience or
Yeah.
respect. You know, how do you, if you want to call it financial, how do you put that in financial terms?
You can't quantify that.
How do you value it financially? Because most of the time it's like, oh, it always boils down to the finances, right? But values and skills like this are not really easy to pin down and quantify. Take
Yeah.
for example a woman who says, oh, I'm thrifty, I'm not wasteful, I'm careful with money, I'm frugal. That is an important value for a woman to have, right?
Right.
But unless you're a man who's thinking really deep about what it is you're looking for,
Right.
a value like that makes no sense to you
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
because it's intangible. What does
It,
it mean to be frugal? Is it frugal with my money or frugal
oh,
with
you.
money that
Yeah.
you've earned? So what does that mean? A man needs to think about this really
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
seriously, to
Seriously.
see value, to realize that the fact that she's frugal or she's not wasteful with money means if things are hard and there's only $100 for
Let's
for that week, she
let's
is able to manage that, right? But a man who is not looking deep would look at that and say, this has no
yeah.
value to me, right? So I think women can bring a lot of the intangibles.
Okay.
They
Yeah.
bring a
Okay.
lot of the intangibles, and it makes valuing it a little bit more complicated.
Right, but that's another good point. You know, what women generally bring are they're very subjective. They're very valuable. You guys don't get us wrong. They are very valuable characteristics, but again, they are very subjective. They are more qualitative in nature. It's difficult to quantify. You know, what does patience mean? You know, it's difficult for you to decipher. Even there are a lot of qualities that men bring to that are very subjective. You have to really do a qualitative analysis to find out if it's what women want. But nonetheless, it's a fair point that most things that women bring is subjective, and you as a man,
Mhm.
in your own terms, work it out. Like, is this workable for me? You know what I mean? And again, like you said, what does patience mean? Does it mean patience with children? When do you step into discipline? When do you let children do their own thing? Those are things that you have to get down to the nitty gritty as a man to be able to really understand. I mean, the objective thing is she has a booby, she has a bomb. That's very objective. You can see that, but
Mm.
men are also consider, can she make a meal? You know, um, making a meal that goes to fit the man's taste. Does it fit what the man likes? Does it fit his dietary needs at that point in time?
Mhm.
Can she make
Mhm.
meal? Can she be able to manage meal? Can do you think
Mhm.
women who can turn stew into jollof rice the next day?
Mhm.
Just throw stew and then they make jollof rice from.
Because isn't that what our mothers did,
Yeah,
where they make a meal today, and tomorrow they are making a different meal with the same pot with leftovers, like you want a woman who's able to do that.
to
So
do
again, the thing is,
where you
because
can
women are so worried about answering this question, without really, I don't know if they feel like it's devaluing a
right.
woman when she comes down to what a woman does in a relationship or in a marriage. Or because again, cooking, it's a great skill.
Great skill.
Like everybody wants a woman who knows how to cook.
Yeah. Can you?
There's nothing wrong with that. A woman should not be ashamed to say, I know how to cook.
Yeah. Well,
Right?
again, it goes down to what society has taught men and women nowadays, that these things that men inherently value is not important to
It,
men. Have you asked a woman, can you cook? My goodness, you're gonna be called all sorts of names. You're gonna be called Miss.
mhm,
You're gonna because men have now been socialized that they should expect a woman who's working 12 hours, 16-hour days.
to come and cook. Yeah.
Yeah, they should expect a woman who has to bring 50-50 to the table. And we begin to wonder why a lot of people are miserable, both men and women. They are both miserable in relationship. And we wonder why people are not even getting married in the first place. Why
Mm,
high up there? Because, again, like you earlier said, to ask that question is to assume that there's a natural division between a man and woman. You know what I mean?
mhm,
Uh,
mhm.
so the things that we as men have naturally valued in women has been scraped away, and we are being forced again by media, by feminists, by films, and everything. That no, you are not supposed to value a woman who cooks. You're not supposed to value a woman who dresses beautifully. When was the last time you saw women wear skirt? Some women wore.
Everybody's putting on pants.
Last time you saw women dressed in a dress or a skirt or modestly and stuff like that. Go and look at movies in the 1950s. Women used to wear dresses, they were in shape and stuff like that. You don't see that nowadays.
Mhm,
Everything
mhm,
in jeans, in pants, and stuff like
mhm.
that. Women mostly dress like men nowadays. And God
Because
tell a woman to go and dress in a dress. My goodness, you're a misogynist.
because every most women want to be manly. Another thing, women I don't know if they're ashamed or they're scared or they're just not comfortable saying, is a woman telling you that yes, I am ready and I'm ready to start a family.
Yeah,
I am able and willing to have children.
to have children. But
Women, like
you can expect,
that would, if a man is asking you what you bring to the table, if I were a woman,
yeah,
that would be the first thing I tell you.
yeah,
I say you want to have, if you definitely want to have a future, if you want to have your name carried on,
yeah.
I am the person to give you that because I'm ready and able to provide kids
And I don't have priority.
and raise them. I have no problem staying home and raising the children that me and you have in this relationship. No, most they don't. That's the last thing they think about. But for a man who is looking to have a family, that is the only thing he probably wants to hear. Everything else is secondary. The primary thing he wants to hear is that yes, I am ready to sacrifice whatever career that I have now, so that me and you can have our children,
Right.
right? And
Right.
help you raise the family. And it's important. It's key. For to me, that is the answer to the question. It's
Right.
a very simple, straightforward. That is the answer to the question. If you're looking to have a family, I am the person to give you that.
Right.
Right? I am patient, meaning I am good with you. Sell it, but the opportunity to sell yourself
Right. But
without feeling like without feeling. I don't know if because you're doing that, you feel like you're less. You're less than who you are by
uh,
saying I can play the role that a traditional woman can play in a home, because again it boils down to that.
yeah. But again, it goes back to the indoctrination that we're talking about, because women this is like you said, this is the last thing that women even think of when they are getting into the relationship nowadays. You know, they think that is their career that men want. They think that is the financial contribution that men want. So, and again, you have to think about the demonization of women who are even trying to do those things that you've listed. Have you heard the comments that other women make to women who are stay-at-home mothers who want to focus on raising their children? They're like, "Oh, is that all you do? You
Mm.
serve your husband and your family." So these women are generally treated very poorly, and I really sympathize with them because it's very confusing for a woman. Oh, society push that you have to be career oriented, you have to focus on your career and climb the corporate ladder, but at the same time they want you to be the perfect mother and stuff like that. So
Mm.
women are very confused. Like, what is it that you guys really want me to do? You know, um, and a lot of women are fed up. A lot of women climb the corporate ladder, they go to school, they spend years and years, take a ton of debt, only to realize that this is not fulfilling. Only to realize that raising your children is what brings them joy and stuff like that. Can you do that and have your career on the side?
Of
Yes.
course.
But to push that, it's only career that is going to make you happy and stuff like that. It's only career that's going to bring you satisfaction. It's part of the indoctrination that we over here.
And most men, when they ask the question, they don't. Most men don't care what their what the girl what with their wives make,
Oh, even,
because most of the time,
yeah,
the man knows that this is what I do.
right.
I would go out and bring home the bread or the meat or whatever I want to call it. Not very much pay, not a lot of attention about what the woman brings. But when you ask this question, there are two things that the woman talks about first. It's about, oh, I'm a career woman, I have a job here, I have this, that. First of all, the man doesn't care,
You're right.
because that is not what.
You don't give us
Sorry.
even the money from the proceeds from the job. You don't share with the man in the
You
first.
don't share with the man, so he doesn't really care about how much you make, what you know. The question is not about how much money you want to bring to the table, because mostly men don't care how much you bring. They know what their role is as a man. They are the ones who would go out there and bring anything you have. Is
It's a bonus.
you're just adding to what is already there. That's one for most women. Secondly, the next thing, or the second thing, or the first thing they talk about is, after talking about their jobs and their careers, is beautiful me, great sex.
Mm.
Have you noticed
Yeah, yeah. I noticed that. After a while,
how important is sex? I know it is, but
all good.
how important is it? What is good sex? What is bad sex?
What is good? Say what's bad.
What is right? So what are you selling?
Well, and then they do that, and then after 6 months, when the kids come in, they cannot maintain that. That's just a natural progression of a monogamous relationship. But anyways, these women who and I hope I remember what I was trying to say, who are pushing their career as the first and foremost thing that bring into relationship, and they begin to first of all, let me backtrack a little bit. I'll also submit that a lot of men too are really confused of what they want in a relationship. I knew I was. I was going, oh, I want to look for a wife that we can work and bring money together. That was my thinking when I was getting into a relationship. But my wife kind of changed my dynamic. So a lot of my changing came from my wife because she grew up in that traditional kind of way. But then I began to see value in that, in having someone stay home, raise the children, instill the values that you guys want to instill in your children. Because gosh, your children are in school for 8 hours. You come home from work. How many hours do you
How
spend?
much time do you spend? You give them an iPad or whatever it is, and then they practically raise themselves on on things like that.
And then they continue watching the indoctrination in the iPad. They watch Peppa Pig, that is putting gay characters in
Hmm?
children's
In
story.
the child's program, man.
Yeah. So
In
so you see
program for kids.
an hour or two to deprogram your child or the programming they get from school. And even though I'm a proponent of education, I think it has to be done better, or we should choose schools that suit our children. But otherwise, you need someone to spend more time with the kids to be able to instill values that you want to instill in your children. Or if not, the government is going to train your children for you, and the
Mm-hmm.
government make them citizens of the country that are going to be
Mm-hmm.
slaves of the
Mm-hmm.
system to support
Mm-hmm.
the system, the
Yeah,
political.
because look at it, how much time they spend with schools, government. You
Yeah,
get before school program, you drop them off at 6 or 7 because you have to go to work.
yeah,
They leave the before school, they go to school. They spend how many hours? 7 hours or something there. They are done school at 3:15. You're still at work.
yeah,
They go to the after school program, after care program, however I want to call it. They spend 2 3 hours there. You pick them up at 5 o'clock.
yeah.
You get home.
You
You're trying to make a meal. Once you're trying to make a meal because you don't want to be disturbed, you give them their iPads and then the indoctrination continues. You make a meal, you eat, everyone is exhausted, and then you're trying to get them to bed. For
right,
children, those who have kids, they know that nighttime, bedtime is probably the worst. That's the
that,
time you have to argue with your kids for the 10 20 minutes that you spend with them. So at the end of the day, you're spending an hour and a half with your kids. Half of the time you're arguing because you're trying to get them to do something, and then they go to bed, and then the next morning the same thing,
right.
right? So at the end of the day,
You
um, um,
time with them, right? What time do you spend with them to deprogram them from all the programming from the world? So just to tie this down to the topic before we bring Patrick in. So yeah, women will be pushing all these career things. They'll be pushing answers at the brain to contribute. They'll be pushing all the physicality, and those things, they have some good, but I think most men too, they expect other things in relationships. So it is important to have someone in the home to raise the child, and particularly at those young age, to develop trust, to develop bonding with parents and stuff like that. So again, women will answer, men have their. I know. I thought that, oh, I'm going to wife that we're going to work together, because I grew up seeing my mother all the time, right? My mother was a carrier. She taught all the time, and she would come. She did it for us to survive. Right, that's a good life. But also now we lived in different times, and we live in Africa where your neighbor correct your parents, where society grew. Not so much for a lot of us who live in the West. Even in Africa right now, it's not happening. You can't be the child, or you can't beat your neighbor's child. You're gonna get in trouble. It's not the same way we used to do. So, like, there are different things that we bring to the table. Men,
no, again, just in conclusion, I think what of God, what we've talked about today is there's nothing wrong with asking the question. And also, you can't just simply rely on the answer you get. You need to take time to observe, investigate, if that's the word you want to choose, do your assessment, talk to people, and then you make your conclusion. Like everything else in life, it's a risk. There's no guarantees. The response you get from the question you ask and your observations might be staged or whole, and there's no guarantee. But again, it's important to ask, it's important to observe, and then make your decisions based on your instincts, how you feel. But again, I think women too need to be open to having those conversations. I think women need to take time to figure out what their value is,
yeah,
right? You need to be able to put yourself out and sell yourself, if you need to. So questions, I would rather women be more open to talking about what they bring to a table, and again, yeah, just going from there.
I
I think
can
that's what I've got at.
see how off-putting, how embarrassing the question is, but nonetheless, it's one to be asked, And I think men should just prepare their mind. It's gonna be awkward, Just prepare your mind as it's not a friendly conversation. You are supposed to have it, and it's not gonna feel nice, but it's necessary.
Mhm.
It is.
You know,